Welcome back to another episode of the Boro4Boro podcast, where we take a bite out of the New York City real estate scene. We are actually on season 1 finale. Can you believe it? It's been an amazing run. And to cap off the season, we actually are joined today by an extra special guest, the CMO of Brown Harris Stevens, Mr. Matt Leone.
Oh, guys, thank you. Hey, Ron. I don't know, I guess about a year ago, we had conversations, and each one of you were almost like social media personalities within Brown Harris Stevens. Each one of you created amazing content about each one of your neighborhoods. You guys remember, you still do it.
Yeah.
But you stuck out because every time we put you guys on camera, each one of you got big numbers. So it turned into like, all right, you're part of one borough, you're part of one. This sort of could work into something of, we're thinking about a podcast network. Maybe you guys can consider doing it. And some of you knew each other. Some of you maybe didn't know each other, but we're like, let's put you all in one room and see if it sticks, because you guys were crushing it on social.
Yeah.
Well, we tried this experiment, Boro4Boro, and we're through one season now. And the last couple episodes, I have to tell you, it's the last 2 episodes. I mean, you've been successful all year, but the last 2 episodes, I'm going to give you an analogy that would work for this show. A Boro4Boro analogy, all right? You guys in 2 episodes, with the amount of people that watched and listened to each of you, could have filled Madison Square Garden in Manhattan, the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, Arthur Ashe in Queens, and you would have a larger attendance than New York City Football Club at a Yankee Stadium game.
Wow.
So think about that for a second. You guys were coming from never doing a podcast before to filling arena size, groups of people watching and listening to you. So number one, I want to congratulate each one of you for the commitment that you had to this concept, because this concept was nothing when we brought it to you. It was just like we're thinking about doing something. We have a studio. You believe in us, and you believed in us, and you made it into something that was so impressive that if you see behind me, there's a sponsor. So it's not only the 19,000+ that were watching you of the last 2 episodes, but it's 19,001. It's one important sponsor that believes so much in you that says, my business, I want to promote on your show to get me business. So it's a high-end sleep solutions company that's based just across the river that has good business in the New York metro area, but wants more business in New York City. So they see you as a bridge to that. And they want to sponsor your show. So if you want to say whether or not you are a success, you could say 2 things. One, that you fill in arenas with the amount of people that are watching you.
Yeah.
And that a company is investing in you. So I just want to be here in person on your finale, and I watch every episode. I love every episode. I love the people behind the camera that are such a great job, Lena and Ray, and the individuals that are behind the branding and the design of the show. But I wanted to be here just to thank you for believing in this and for crushing it. Yeah. So I leave it at that, but congrats, and I'm going to take a little bit of whatever you have there on my way out. I'm not going to be here for the whole episode, but I'm going to take some of that. But congrats.
But thank you for seeing us and recognizing what you knew was going to be this big, and just continue to support us. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks, I look forward to season 2 and 3 and beyond.
Absolutely.
Hi, we're Kara and Ron Shovlin, the proud owners of Shovlin Mattress Factory. As a family-owned business for over 50 years, we take pride in every mattress we make. All of our materials are 100% made in the USA.
Each mattress is built in our factory, which is directly behind our showroom, so you can see the craftsmanship firsthand.
We offer custom sizes, adjustable bases, and chiropractor-approved mattresses that give you the support you need for a great night's sleep.
We invite you to check out our 5-star reviews or visit our showroom to experience the difference.
All right, well, that was a super warm intro. Shout out to Matt Leone. Shout out to everyone that is a part of this. It's actually kind of crazy with all the stuff that he said, because if we all remember going back to episode 1, it was such uncharted territory. And at the top of the year, the headlines were completely different around real estate. We were going into what was going to be an election year. There was a lot of talk about interest rates. There was so much things that were going on that the market really didn't know what was going to happen. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about those headlines, where they actually landed in our markets, but also some of the stuff that we now know going into 2025 that maybe we can make some predictions for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, just a quick one. So I think that's interesting because coming into this year, we were talking about interest rates and everyone like
They promised 4 cuts, right?
Yeah, they're going to drop and X, Y, Z. And I guess my question is, what has that made of the market? Have you guys seen any changes? Are you guys working with buyers that are waiting on the sideline, waiting for interest rates to drop, or are they going in?
I think this is a combination of both. Like people waiting, obviously, because of the election.
Yeah.
You know, people trying to figure out what's happening. You know, where they're going to go next year. And you know.
Yeah.
I think also a lot of what I heard, if there was just like a talk track of the year, there were 2 things. People were like, I'm waiting for interest rates to go down. It could have been January. It could have been September. That was what they were saying, a lot of the buyers, that is, in terms of their reasons for waiting.
Right.
But there were a lot of sellers that were saying the same thing.
Right.
So it's so interesting that as the year went on, like you said, the Fed, I don't even call it a cut. I call it a slice. You know, it went down 0.5%.
Yeah.
And then it since has gone up. But the talk track throughout the whole year was all this anticipation of what that cut was going to do for them.
Right.
And at the end of the day, all that really ended up happening is that for buyers, they stood on the sideline and watched as home prices went up.
Yeah.
And the mortgage rates didn't go down to an amount that was going to allow them to feel like it was worth it.
Right.
So going into 2025, I feel like we're probably going to see a lot of the same.
Same thing.
I got a question for you guys. Have you all seen like an uptick in like buyers recently, like in this current month right now? Like I've been getting like requests like crazy for buyers like to go out.
I have, and I think it kind of goes into the conversation we were having off air, Matt, right? I feel like people are maybe getting frustrated with the interest rates or just getting tired of waiting, right? And are now jumping into the market. Some of my listings that I've had, they haven't been in the market a week and we're getting offers at over asking.
Brooklyn.
And
It's Brooklyn for you.
And it's so crazy, right? Because from this time last year when we were saying interest rates are going to drop, people are going to jump back into the market, it really hasn't.
Right.
And we're having that same conversation leading into 2025. So I feel like a lot of people are probably just like frustrated. And they're just like, listen, we don't know when it's going to happen. Like we said, the Feds dropped, like it was a slice, right?
Twice.
And then it went back up. And then it went back up.
But I also think a lot of that was unrealistic expectations. I think the expectation when people were saying that, a lot of it was interest rates in the 2 and 3%. And, you know, us as realtors, we have a closer pulse to the market. We have a lot of relationships with different folks in the mortgage industry. And a lot of what I was hearing in having these conversations was that that's just unrealistic in terms of an immediate thing. Maybe 10 years from now, who knows? But at least in the near time, we're not going to see those type of interest rates. So if you're waiting to transact for that, that's not going to happen.
I don't think we're ever going to see 2 and 3%
I don't
again.
think so either.
Yeah.
Like that was just a one-off. But I do anticipate it going in like to the 5s and 4s again. Like over the next 10 years.
But you also have to remember, like last year, 2023, interest rates were like close to 6 and 7. So that's when buyers really halted on their search.
Sure.
Yeah.
Then I think January, with the prediction of dropping the rates by 4 times, it gave buyers like a little more like encouragement to go out there. So I feel like January to March was pretty busy this year.
Right.
And then as soon as April came around, started to go a little bit slower. Then when did they drop it? In August?
I think that was August, early
Around
September.
August,
It was like Labor Day
right.
timing.
And then it went right back up, I think, at like 2 weeks later.
Yep.
So I feel like buyers are more realistic now. And according to Greg Himes' report, as of November 25th, despite the interest rates, mortgage applications for new home purchases were up 8.2 higher than last year.
Yeah.
So
that all
that was
throughout
like
New
the
York,
uptick.
or-
Yeah, Manhattan.
And those are applications. So that's not even pre-approvals because pre-approvals, that's like the precursor, as we know. People who are actually like, all right, I'm going to make a transaction. That still, I think, goes to the trend. It's like there's so many people who thought like, I'll wait. And then they're like, you know what? I need to move. And as we all know in our industry, people are motivated by actual life events.
Right.
Very rarely are people just motivated to make a move in real estate because of the finances. So people who at the beginning of the year, they were like, all right, I can afford to be able to hold off until some point in the year when the interest rates drop.
Yeah.
They were like, you know what? I need to get this mortgage and I'm not confident that we're going to see a bigger drop. I'm just going to do it now.
Yeah, because one of the biggest trends we did see, at least in Manhattan, this year was price decreases. So
Yeah.
I think buyers are like, okay, well, if we can educate them and tell them, listen, we know the interest rates are not where you want them to be, but you do have more leverage in pricing.
Yeah.
And if you could get your pricing down overall, then, you know, you could always refinance later. That was like the conversation we had a lot this year.
Well, talk to us a little bit. No, go ahead.
Sorry, that's interesting because in Brooklyn, prices actually went up.
Yeah.
I guess due to like the low inventory,
Yeah.
and the demand, prices actually went up. I think 5% throughout the borough, and obviously in some of the neighborhoods, which we'll touch on, it went up even like more or less with some of them.
Interesting.
Yeah. Did you see that also in the Bronx, Scotty?
Prices up.
Yeah.
In the northern part of the Bronx, yes. Like
Yeah.
in the South Bronx, like I think the prices have been kind of more competitive.
Yeah.
Like I think sellers are realizing that, you know, maybe they're too high, you know, and they need to come down on those prices for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think in a lot of our markets, maybe probably less in Manhattan, and if we're being real, the parts of Brooklyn at this point, in most of the most popular neighborhoods, it's exceeding Manhattan, but are more sensitive to interest rates because a lot of the people that are primarily buying in Queens, in the Bronx, you know, parts of Upper Manhattan, and maybe even parts of Brooklyn, for them, the interest rates are a part of their talk track. But what's interesting about Manhattan, and Tracy, I would love to hear some more from you about this, is like, is that the trend? You know, is cash really what's moving the market there? Or is it more so that you're seeing a lot of the decreases because of people who just were waiting for interest rates to go down?
Yeah, so I don't know if you remember a couple of episodes ago when Ben was here, Lavender, he mentioned that last year was a huge thing for cash. Everybody in Manhattan was doing cash. But this year, I think it's a nice mix between financing and cash. And I think that's partly because of the prices are decreasing.
Right.
So it's becoming a little more affordable. But the average price right now in Manhattan is $1.3 million.
Oh, yeah? I actually think we're going to see probably more cash purchases. And I feel like even like the luxury markets and parts of Brooklyn, like the Fort Greens, Clinton Hills, Park Slope, you're probably going to see a lot more cash buys, right? If you look at what's happening externally with everyone's predicting is going to be like, he's going to be great for Wall Street, right?
Sure.
Which would equate to more bonuses.
Right.
We live in a, big financial industry in New York. So you're probably going to see bonuses and people coming out with like paying cash. So they're going to probably not even care too much about the interest rates.
Maybe even paying with crypto, right?
Yeah, shout out to Bitcoin. But I mean, at the top of the year and bonus season, it's like around like March, right? Like February, March, it's that time of year. So if that's the case, Q1, I think that's a bold prediction that I would agree with. I'm actually curious to see that too, because if a lot of the Wall Street folks, we can't even say Wall Street bros anymore because like there's so much just people who are benefiting from bonuses. If bonus season is in Q1 and a lot of people who are now going to be more interested in buying real estate, if they wanted to use that as an opportunity, I think there's a lot of things that are going to happen in January to March that may be so different than what we saw January to March of this year, that could actually end up dictating the rest of the year because that's going to lead the market.
Yeah, I definitely feel it's going to be leveraged with the amount of buyers that are looking for mortgages, that are sitting on the sideline, that are waiting for interest rates to go up. Once interest rates to go down, because once interest rates start going down, house prices are going to go up. So for the savvy buyer or for the cash buyer, it's probably going to be now or Q1 of 2025 to probably pull the trigger, because house prices are still going to be relative, even though they're going to be increasing. It's not going to be as much as when interest rates decrease.
Yeah. I'll make a prediction. I think more sellers are going to put their houses on the market. Like,
you think we're finally getting inventory?
Yeah, I think we're going to get the inventory is going to increase.
Why
is
do you
that
say
because
that?
of the election, or
I believe because of the election and just in general. I feel like people have been like just how buyers are waiting on the sideline. I feel like sellers have been waiting on the sideline as well, trying to figure out what's going to happen. And
because a lot of them are actually rate locked. I mean, at the end of the day, for them, if they have a 2% interest rate themselves, a 6%, even a 7%, that's just not attractive to them. At least if maybe there's a 5 in front of it, it's a little bit more palatable. And so if the Fed, looking at you, Fed, if you are really going to do an actual cut, maybe even at the top of the year, I would agree with that. I think that's a bold prediction that I would agree with. And we all hope, because I think the market is just better when there's more inventory. Regardless of what side of the market you're on, it just makes a better transaction environment. So I hope so, because in Queens, we actually saw year over year, we actually had the highest increase across all the 5 boroughs. We had, in terms of average sales price, we had a 28% increase. And this is in a low inventory environment. So again, this is across all of Queens. So you're talking about the highest price points, which are in LIC, all the way out east. But with that, it's still been concentrated in a lot of, in very specific areas. So I do think that naturally, even in environments where there's less inventory and there's a lot more new development that's coming up, it's interesting to see that if that ends up happening and there's more inventory, is that trend going to continue, or is it just going to be, a drop in the bucket of what we're going to see overall in all of NYC?
Which neighborhood in Queens, I guess, is responsible or is the catalyst for that?
Yeah, so it's interesting. You guys have heard me talk a lot about LIC because naturally when people think of Queens these days, we talk LIC, but it actually isn't LIC in terms of who's the leader across the county. So believe it or not, you and I had talked about, in a previous episode, we talked about folks who wanted to be in Brooklyn. They wanted to be in parts of Brooklyn like Bushwick. Right. And Bushwick is desirable, but there's so many people who no longer can afford it. Yeah. So because of that, we've actually seen the highest increase in Ridgewood, which is right over, it's next door to Bushwick. Yeah. And we've actually seen year over year, we've actually seen a 25% increase in sales price in Ridgewood. Oh, yeah. And that's led all of Queens.
You know, that's funny because I've done some research for this episode, and one of the neighborhoods that saw an increase in house prices and activity was Bushwick. Like they saw a 4% or I think 5% increase in sales in the borough. I mean, in that area this year. I think the average house price over there is $880
in Bushwick. Yeah. Whereas in Ridgewood, though, you're getting $700. Yeah. So naturally, a lot of people are just looking like, wait, down the street, I can get a similar property, right, for a fraction of the price. I see why it's attractive.
Yeah, and you probably have, you do have the same amenities. I don't know if anyone's like familiar with the Bushwick and Ridgewood area, but yeah, you.
So we don't go around them parts.
It's more or less like the same amenities and kind of like the same vibe that you get. So it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, look, Ridgewood, I think is naturally going to be that big spot. It's not by the water. It's not, a lot of the things that you would typically think like with the LIC. But as far as the proximity to Brooklyn, I think a lot of those bordering neighborhoods, that could potentially, in my opinion, be the trend that we're going to see in 2025, because at some point, that Brooklyn bubble is going to burst. Yeah. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot more people in the Ridgewoods and in those areas who that's going to be probably the top neighborhood year over year again.
Yeah. Do you think Ridgewood is saturated? Or you think there's still more growth there?
I think there's more growth because I think a lot of it naturally just comes down to the inventory. And I do think a lot of Ridgewood, as far as the inventory that exists today, it's still a lot of older homes. And so once developers meet that demand in terms of a lot of the amenities that we're talking about, I still think that there's a lot of opportunity where, I mean, for better or worse, we did talk about gentrification on the last episode. I think Ridgewood is hot for gentrification, but I do think in terms of meeting the demand, in terms of what the stock looks like, I think that is what we're probably going to see the most, where that whole neighborhood is going to transform. And what looked like, a very traditional neighborhood, I think it's probably going to be transforming. You're going to see so much new development popping up over there.
Yeah.
What's the stock like over there? Is it co-ops, condos, single-family houses over there?
Yeah, it's a lot more single-family houses, and you do have some condos, but the majority of the apartments are co-ops over there. And so, a lot of the stock, it's still kind of dated in terms of, it hasn't transitioned to where a lot of the inventory that you're seeing is new. And that's why I think Ridgewood, once you start seeing more and more of these new developments popping up, I think, that whole complexion of what the neighborhood looks like in terms of amenities is going to change too. Yeah. So how about this? I think this is a perfect time for us to go to break because I've been looking at these treats and I want to be able to figure out where we got them from. All right. So we'll be right back. All right.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
All right, so we are back, and I'm glad that right before the break, we were talking about Queens. We're going to get deeper into these, into the Queens stats, because I got some numbers here for y'all that's going to blow your minds. But before we do that, I would love to know about these goodies that we got on this table. Isaiah, where'd you get these from?
I got these from September. That's Cafe in Bed-Stuy. It's on the corner of McDonough and Saratoga, owned by my homegirl, Sarah.
Sarah.
It's a dope cafe. Every time I go there, I struggle to get a seat because it's just always packed.
Wow.
Yeah, they do obviously nice coffees and their treats are like gorgeous. Yeah, this here is like a banana bread pudding, like my best, especially heated up. And then this one here is a almond croissant. Yeah. You guys tuck in, man.
So he heated up for us. You hear that, right?
I left mine on the
These
desk.
cafes, with all this work from home, employees, they fill up the cafes. So.
Wow. All right.
I was there yesterday with Javon, and it was just like, yo, where do we sit? It was just like, it's tough to get a seat over there, but it's a nice place. If you're ever in Bed-Stuy.
Yeah.
Shout out to them.
Cafes are the new club, man.
Yeah.
Can't get in.
You know what's so funny, actually? I think she actually does do like a club night.
No.
Really?
I think she has like a wine and liquor license.
Right?
Oh, wow.
So like a couple nights a month, she like turns it into
that's cool.
like a little bar.
All right.
Cool.
All right, I'll come to
Check
Brooklyn.
out
I'll come check it out.
You be in Brooklyn, I see.
You ain't see me. but no, before the break, we were talking about Ridgewood and how much is booming. But I know it can't be the only neighborhood that was booming in 2024. So talk to me about some other neighborhoods that you guys have been seeing.
Yeah, no, I'll start. I mean, the Bronx is kind of consistent. It's been pretty consistent. I've been seeing inventory, like according to Realtor.com, there were average 46 days on the market for for regular home stocks. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, in the Bronx, Northern Bronx. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. And then in October of 2024, the median price of homes were $560,000.
Yeah. That's up.
Yeah, that's up.
Wow.
It was a 4.7 increase actually.
Oh, yeah?
Okay.
From the previous year. Yeah.
Wow.
And then the median sold price was $592,000, and that was up 7.3 increase percent. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You know what? Doing my research for this episode, I was looking at like the neighborhoods that had seen the most kind of traction, increase in sales. And apparently Greenpoint came up, right? I couldn't find no numbers, but it was really driven by that new building, the Heron.
The Heron, yeah.
You guys, yeah?
Yeah.
So it was driven by that. So Greenpoint was up there, but I also saw Flatbush. That had a 4.4 increase in sales.
Yeah.
With average prices in Flatbush at like 900. Bushwick was always also there. They have an average price. I just mentioned that 880. That increased by 5%. Greenwood also had an increase of, what was it? 6%.
Oh, wow.
And
Where is Greenwood? I don't think I'm familiar with that area.
Greenwood is by Park Slope.
Okay.
It's by Park Slope, by Sunset Park.
Is this slightly more affordable than Park Slope? Is that why you think people are
more affordable than Park Slope? Yeah, because they're at 1.2. The average price over there is 1.2.
Okay.
Yeah, like I think I had a buyer there last year. You can get like a 2-family for like 1.6.
Yeah. So it's still more affordable than Park Slope, but also Sunset Park is close by Park Slope as well. And they are affordable too. The average price there is $850, but that saw I think an 8% rise in prices or 7% rise in prices from 2023 to this year.
Isn't it crazy how somebody at home is like, you just said it's affordable and it is $850, but I mean at the end of the day it just shows the trends and it's only going to continue to go up.
Exactly.
Right.
The buyers need to get off the sidelines for real.
Gotta get off the
You
sidelines.
gotta get off the sidelines because there was depending on which medium your media you're reading, houses in Brooklyn increased between 6% and 10% this year. Wow. So even with all of the talk of interest rates going up and people waiting on the sideline, house prices are going up too. So if you're going to wait some more, like house prices are going to continue to rise. And let's just say we do have this low inventory and the high demand, you're going to get the same trend in terms of in 2025 in terms of house prices rising. So regardless of interest rates going up, you're still seeing house prices rise.
Let me ask you guys, do you feel like this trend, because I feel like Brooklyn has been real trendy for the last several years now.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that wave is going to like subside at any point?
No, I don't.
No,
I don't. And the reason why I say that, right? So let's take Williamsburg, right? Williamsburg is extremely trendy, right? But the house price is becoming a bit unaffordable for a lot of people. Right. So then they're going to look into Bushwick, right? Now, Bushwick is going to be unaffordable for a lot of folks, and we're talking about them going into Ridgewood, right?
Yeah.
And then you got places like Fort Greene. The average price over there is 1.5. You can't afford that, you're going to go into Bed-Stuy. And then we know what Bed-Stuy is happening, right?
Yeah.
Those people that can't afford Bed-Stuy are going to go into Crown Heights.
So you think a lot of it's just moving around within Brooklyn?
Because you want to be next to that spot, right?
Yeah.
Like we've just said, house prices are increasing.
Yeah.
You want to be in a certain neighborhood. Maybe your friends are there.
Yeah. Sure.
You can't afford it, so you're going to go to the next neighborhood.
So I actually disagree with that. So, and again, unsurprisingly, it's because I think Queens, as we saw with the stats, year over year, 29%, right? But in my opinion, I think there's going to be a lot more people that, through the education that we provide on this podcast, as well as just the savvy realtors who are exposing them to other neighborhoods, I think we're actually going to see a lot more people who historically would have wanted to go to Brooklyn because it's trendy.
Yeah.
They get hit with the unaffordability of the place, and now they're more open to places like a Ridgewood and deeper parts of Queens that now that they know they exist and they can see what the housing inventory looks like and they see some of the prices, I think what the trendiness is actually going to be around affordability. I think it's less about the location.
Where I disagree with that is because now you're talking about aesthetics, right? People's aesthetics and transportation and amenities in the neighborhood. There's certain things that Queens just don't offer, right? I know we always joke about like the subway and things like that.
Like what? What we got?
Like subway, right? You guys
We
have
got
a lot
trains.
of, just what, the E train and the 7 train,
Yeah,
right?
no. This guy.
You guys have a lot of framed houses where
Yeah.
Brooklyn has a lot of limestone, brownstone houses, right? Those are things that people dream about. Like my dream home. You speak to people like, they will say, "Oh, my dream home's a brownstone." You ain't really getting that in Queens.
Yeah, but how much are they going to pay for that? How much is that dream costing them?
Yeah, $2
That's
million.
expensive.
Yeah, but they're gonna receive bonuses from Wall Street.
Dream. We're gonna talk dreams and reality.
Right. If you a dreamer at home, talk to Isaiah.
Right, but either way, you still want to be next to those brownstones,
Right.
right? Like they're not gonna go
It's like the allure of it.
right.
Yeah,
they're
I
not
understand.
Gonna go to Queens, right? That's just my opinion. And then you have also like subways and things of that nature. That
I heard that they're building a subway in Queens. It might just be a rumor, but I heard that the train is coming to Queens
oh,
finally.
you're talking
So-
about train subway. I thought
Yeah.
you meant like restaurant subway.
Because I heard that we're getting the subway in Queens. But I hear what you're saying in terms of like there's just certain subway lines that people need to be off of to come into the city, and I get that.
Yeah, a majority of Queens is like there's a 2-fare zone where you have to take a bus to a subway.
Yeah.
Where you're gonna get like the quietness, the quiet neighborhood. You're gonna get the lawn and the nice like driveway. You're gonna have to compare that to the distance to travel to work and things like that.
I agree with you both, like especially on the affordability part and then aesthetics. You know, like because even in the Bronx, like you have a variety of you have townhouses in Mount Haven, and then you go further up north, you have the single family homes, the Victorian houses.
Right.
You know, you go to areas like Pelham Bay or Morris Park. You know, things like that. You have so it's a variety. It just depends on what that person is looking for, right?
Yeah.
Do you think like Riverdale is going to become a place that people are going to still flock to? Because that's still like northwestern.
Well, Riverdale is a niche market. I believe it's more of a luxury market. You know what I'm saying? So it's not for everybody. Like the homes there are probably averaging, maybe 1.5 or something like that for a single family home. You know?
Yeah.
And,
Unfortunately, unfortunate for the Bronx, because it gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
I think people don't give it the credit it deserves when it comes to like architecture and transportation.
Absolutely.
Things of that nature. Because I'm selling a house now on Clay Avenue, a beautiful brownstone. That whole street is like beautiful brownstone. Some of them are run down.
Yeah.
But I think if people were to like get an eye there or visit the Bronx and see what kind of inventory they have, it might change a lot
Those
of
investors got to give you a call, man.
It's definitely the education part, because there's many different areas in the Bronx, and I think people have a misconception when they think of the Bronx. It's like the South Bronx, and that's all they think about. But there's so many other there's suburban areas in the Bronx as well. You have Country Club as well, which is also
Really nice
yeah,
neighborhood.
it thrives
What
in that.
about Manhattan, Tracy? Because I mean, look, we talked about how there's a lot of cash that was flowing in 2024, but those are certain neighborhoods that I would imagine like that $5 to $10 million range. That's really where the money was being thrown, right?
Yeah, exactly. So year over year, as far as prices, it's been like a 10 to 15%, but that's usually inflated by the 5 to 10 million buyers that you're talking about. But places like Midtown, they've seen a slight decrease in price, but then also an increase in new devs. Like we have a new dev, 520 Fifth Avenue, that is, 1.7 7 it starts at, all the way up to 14 million.
That's in
They're
Midtown.
selling fast. It's in Midtown, so Midtown East.
Yeah.
So that area is rapidly growing with new devs and price per square foot as well. But then places like Manhattan, Upper Manhattan, you have a 2% decrease in prices. You have price drops. So when we talk about which neighborhoods to invest in, Upper Manhattan's the place to invest.
Interesting. I think going into 2025, I do think a lot of the people who are going to get off the sidelines, I think a lot more people, my prediction is that there's a lot more people that are going to be, when they decide to buy, buying multifamily. Because I think for them, if I'm going to make this transaction, I want to be able to make sure that I can at least have some liquidity from the rentals. So I know it's not trendy, or excuse me, it's not a hot take to say that multifamily in New York is going to be a thing, but I do think we're going to see an uptick in 2025 because, in my opinion, just looking at the trends, there's so many people who are like, man, I don't know if I want to spend, we're talking $1 million for some of these properties, and it's all them just paying their mortgage. They at least want to be able to offset it. And I think we're going to start seeing people who, when they do transact in 2025, you're going to see a lot of them flocking towards those multifamilies.
Yeah, and on the multifamily topic, a lot of conversations with multifamilies is the work that needs to be done. And I think this year, with the interest rates being so high, buyers don't want to do the work. They really want turnkey properties, but the turnkey properties are much more than what they can afford. So this year, for sure, we've seen a lot of more days on the market as far as townhouses. One, it took me 7 months to sell. Another one, I received very little traffic compared to, another townhouse in a different neighborhood. So I think buyers are more savvy and they want places that are just more put together.
It's so funny you say that. Sorry to cut you off. So funny you say that because I kind of agree with you. I think slightly agree with you in terms of people wanting multi-families. And I think because of the price point, they're going to start flocking towards apartments, co-ops, and condos because of the affordability point of view.
And the labor, too. Construction labor has gone up a lot. A lot of, like new devs, obviously, is turnkeys, move-in ready. So I think that's where we're going to see the increase, especially if interest rates continue to stay at the same level that is at. That's going to mean a lot of people are going to, less affordability. So they're going to look into, co-ops and condos, which are more affordable. I think that's what we're going to see. And I've been seeing this trend too. We just went to a broker open house at, I believe it's on 113th Street. I can't remember the exact address, but it's a new dev that has a townhouse built in it. So it's 2 levels, so kind of like a duplex. They call it a townhouse because it has all the bells and whistles of a townhouse, but it's in a condo building. So you're getting that cool. factor, And they have some of those in Mott Haven, which are rentals as well.
Shout out to Whitney. I know that's his listener.
Yeah, Whitney.
I think it's 330 West
303
or 303. I remember 3. When I put in the
West
GPS, I remember the
113th Street.
3s.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's a new dev actually right now, and I think there are around 1,000 per square foot. So for Harlem, it's considered, a good deal. So if clients can come from Upper West Side or Upper East Side and buy that specific turnkey, beautiful finishes, high-end finishes, you can get a better deal than you would getting a new dev in Midtown.
100%.
So,
And I do think, going back to now that we're on the topic of new dev, I do think any of my clients that are either waiting for the right moment or, they're just getting themselves in order from a financial standpoint, a lot of the talk track that I've been giving them is looking into Astoria. And the reason why I say Astoria is because, as we know, Long Island City is kind of the hot place, but the average price for a property in Long Island City right now is hovering around $1.3 million. That's not necessarily affordable for most people. But comparatively, Astoria, which is next door, in 2024, it did increase. But now we're talking about 750, and that's with a 12% increase year over year. So the fact that you can be a few blocks away in Astoria and be able to take advantage of some lower prices, a lot of the developments that we're starting to see there are starting to mirror what we see in LIC. And so now is the time, in my opinion, to really be able to get into Astoria, capitalize on the lower end of the market while those new devs are coming out. Because I've checked out some new devs. There's one on Vernon Boulevard called New Sun, It's right up the water. It's basically adjacent to, call it 65th Street in Manhattan. And that building is beautiful. It's still under construction, but I did a tour with some buyers the other day, and they were floored at the amount that they were getting from a price per square foot standpoint. And I think naturally people who have been on the sidelines for a while, I don't necessarily believe that they're going to be as willing to buy something that's going to be a smaller box. I think people are going to be looking for that square footage. And that's why I tell my clients to come to Astoria, because Astoria, you can get those deals now and be able to get a smaller buy-in in comparison to some of the other places where all those amenities that we've talked about in previous episodes, you can get those right now for a fraction of the price.
Can you see Central Park from 6th to 65th?
You could see. It depends on what glasses you got on.
You can see a tree.
You can see a branch that's could be in Central Park.
He's cousins over in Central Park.
Right, but no, you get beautiful views and all of that. But I do think I'm excited more than anything about 2025 because I feel that we are kind of at this turning point in the market. That all the things that we've been talking about, I'm excited to see if our bold predictions are gonna come true. I don't think Tracy gave a bold prediction though. What do you think your bold prediction is?
I think Q1 of next year will be very busy. I feel like the start of the year, people make their decisions and they start really getting serious. So I think prices will still increase in a lot of the areas, but I feel like buyers will be a little more confident to just make a decision. And I think with all the political changes that are happening, people might want to relocate. People might want to sell their place, move further south or whatever the case is. But I feel like we're definitely going to see movement in Q1.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
What's the next area you think is going to pop for Manhattan?
Well, this year it's been Tribeca. It's been Upper East Side.
Upper East Side's been booming this year.
Yeah, Upper East Side with the train coming, extending. I think that Upper East Side will still be trendy. I feel like Upper West Side as well. And I'm really trying to bring the buzz back to Harlem because it is a great place to live. Close proximity to all the highways. You have 5 parks. You have whole bunch of restaurants and eateries, and so I feel like it's a place where people really need to come back to.
Please come back to Harlem. I agree.
Buyers, contact me.
Yes, hit up Uptown Tracy if you are trying to buy in Harlem, because I agree. I think we've had a lot of conversation off air about, Harlem. As you know, I lived in Harlem, but it's just always surprising that when there was that big surge, Harlem was the hottest place.
2015.
And then now the fact that you're telling us that you're actually seeing decreases in prices, it's crazy that the demand isn't there. And it's almost like people's attention spans have just gone to all these other places. Brooklyn, not talking to nobody specifically, but they could go to Brooklyn and get all the bells and whistles for double the price.
Yeah, do you know how many movies we shoot in Harlem? Like every week there's a movie being shot there. It's classic.
Yeah. So do not miss out on the opportunity to buy in Harlem. And if you don't want to go to Harlem, there's always Queens. Come on over. We'd love to have you. But that is a wrap on this episode, team. This was an amazing episode.
Yeah, I enjoyed learning a lot about you guys and the boroughs, and I can't wait for next year.
This was a great episode, man.
Great episode, great season.
Great season, yeah, for sure. We definitely came together and gelled a little bit, you know? That was great.
Thank you to our behind-the-scenes team.
Yes.
For everything.
Thank you to Lena. Thank you to Ray.
Yes.
And especially, we cannot let this episode end without shouting out Shoveling Mattresses, because they came in and they really brought it home for us in season 1. I am in the market for a mattress.
Me too.
So you will hear from me. But thank you so much for being our sponsor, and we are excited for season 2 and what we are going to be able to do with you. And if you have not caught up on all the episodes from season 1, it's not too late. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave us some comments, and make sure to share with some loved ones over the holidays.
Yeah, bring it in, team.
Yes. This has been another episode. And make sure you check us out. Peace.
Bye.